At this point in time, I'm going to call Miss Giles up. It's like old times. We used to do a lot of these things together, and she's going to talk about Doc Ingold, who I also played baseball for him, and he also hired me here in 1965. And he really set the background for those of us who were in the phys ed department at that time. If you did what he said, we were in trouble anyway. So, right, Marge? Okay, Marge Giles.
Notice how quickly we both move. Anyway, it's such a pleasure to be here on behalf of Doc Ingold. I graduated from Butler in 1957, and he was a young, very good-looking teacher at that time in physical education. He graduated from Cancer College. He served in the military, World War II, was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge, came back, and then eventually ended up at Butler High School as a physical education teacher. Now, thing with Doc is that he was probably the most honorable individual I have ever known. When I came back to work in Butler, I realized what an outstanding person he was. I recently talked to Jack Davies because Jack was very, very upset that he couldn't be here today. And he wanted to honor Fred. It was so important to him to do that because Fred meant so much to him. So I assured him that I would let you know how important that relationship was. Jack, when he was a young boy in Verona, growing up in Verona, Fred was in high school at Verona High School. He was an incredible athlete. He played soccer, and actually he was so good at soccer, he was a national level player. Played basketball and he played baseball. Outstanding in all three. And Jack said to me on the phone, he said, he said, Fred was my idol. He was my idol. I wanted to be like him when I grew up. Well, history proves that that was going to happen. But Jack was playing on a baseball team in Verona, and it was a club team, and Fred was the coach. This was after World War II and whatever, and they were back home. And they were having practice one day, and just to tell you what kind of person Fred was, he was getting married that day. It was his wedding day. And the team had practice, but Fred was getting married. So, lo and behold, he shows up at the practice, just to make sure everything was going the way it was supposed to go. Not only did he show up, and I couldn't believe this, but Jack assured me it was true, he pitched batting practice in his tuxedo. Now, those who know Fred know that that's very possible, to say the least. He came to Butler, and as a phys ed teacher, eventually, within a couple of years, became the athletic director. And we couldn't have asked for a better person to do that job. He originally shared his office with all the phys ed teachers, the guys, Bob was around them and whatever. And he said, this isn't going to work. This is not going to work. Too much going on. He had to get his own office. So Fred being Fred, he went around the corner in the gym, found an equipment closet, emptied the closet out, and that became his office. Now, when I say an equipment closet, I'm telling you, a ceiling that went like 2 stories up, cinder block, no windows, and no heat. But that was good enough for him. It's good enough. It's good enough, he said. Jim has something to say.
I was the vice principal at that time, and I get a call over the intercom system that we had. Jim, I need you down in my new office. Needless to say, he said, bring some wrenches and some oil because we have to fix the fan. It's driving me crazy. And that was Fred.
That was Fred. And in that office, one of the features was his typewriter, which I constantly asked him, Fred, is that the typewriter that Lincoln wrote the Gettysburg Address on? Now, we had already moved into the age of electric typewriters, but not for Fred. You push the keys on that, and you hurt your finger. But that's what he did. All his memos, everything he did was on that typewriter. Now, Fred had a great sense of humor. Very serious man about his job and all his responsibilities, but his sense of humor was outstanding. I worked 15 years with him in 5th period lunch study. Now, those of you who went to Butler, remember when we were very crowded, you spent half a period in the study hall, and then you'd go over to the cafeteria, and the kids who were eating lunch would go over to the auditorium for the second half, 5B. Well, we had this gigantic study hall, and for 15 years, I heard him say, when a kid in 5A wanted to know what's for lunch that day, he'd say, hey, Doc, what's for lunch? And he would say, for 15 years, cat on a bun. So, cat on a bun. Tom just asked me where he got the name Doc. You know, I can't tell you that because I don't know. And I've asked him about it, but he never would explain it. So I'm afraid it may be something we don't want to know about. Yeah, well, that was the other thing. Fred was a great coach. Those who had him for baseball know. But he also was an emotional coach. And I remember when I came back here to teach, I went down to Pequannock, and they were playing Pequannock, and we were winning by like 7 runs. And in the 7th inning, we lost the game. And we also lost a medical kit. He broke his toe. And when he retired, I presented him with that medical kit, just to remind him. But all these things being said, the most important thing is the influence he had on us, the coaches, and Butler High School. I saw it as a student, and I saw it as a colleague. He set standards for everyone. All of us coaches, when he was AD, can tell you he had our best interest at heart. He would give us advice. He would tell you the right thing to do. We didn't always follow that. And he had a very famous saying when he would talk to you about things he thought you should do. Anyway, when he would come up and he'd say, I don't think you should do that. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I don't think you should do it. But if you do, they're going to hang you. And I spoke to Fred's wife, Jacqueline. We've remained in touch, because Fred and I kept in touch when he left on the phone. We talked. He was down in Florida. And I keep in touch with his wife, Jacqueline. I just spoke to her the other day. She felt very badly that she couldn't be here, as did Jack Davis. But the family was very, very excited about this being done. And I will make sure that she gets everything that's being done here today, either by computer or by film. But Jacqueline said, when I told her about they're going to hang you, she said it was like that at home, too. But Fred was a man of integrity, a man with a sense of responsibility, second to none. And I was reading something the other day, and I saw a statement, and then I thought, boy, this applies to Fred. And I'd just like to read it to you. And it was from Thomas Macaulay, who's an English writer and politician back in the 1800s. He said, the measure of a man's character is what he would do if he knew he would never be found out. And that's Fred to a T. Fred always did the right thing. He would never settle for less. he passed that on to us. You coaches are representatives of this school. How you conduct yourself is so important. And he knew that if we conducted ourselves as he thought we should, that would be reflected in our athletes and would reflect well on Butler High School. All I can say about Fred, and he liked the simple things. He was not for muss and fuss, but all I can say is thank you, Doc. There's never been anyone like you.
We all have hundreds of stories dealing with Fred. He was a unique individual. It was on a Thursday, it was a Thursday or Friday. Jack Becker, who then was superintendent, called me to the office and he said, "You have to tell Doc that he cannot coach the game today." Fred had John's. Nobody wanted to face Fred to tell him that he couldn't coach. So I proceeded from the superintendent's office down to the gym, and I walked into Fred's office, I closed the door behind, and I said, "Fred, they're not going to let you coach today." He sat back in his chair and he says, "That's not going to happen." He said, "You're going with me. I'm going to sit in the car. I'll give you the signals, and you can coach." It was 32 degrees in Caldwell. At the end of the game, I came back to the car, and Fred said, "Are you enjoying yourself?" I said, "Thanks a lot, Fred." But that was Fred. He had to be at the game, no matter what.
There's a lot of stories about Fred, but we don't have enough time.
March, would you uncover Doc's, please?
Yeah, Marge, you can bet. Got it? It's the next story as well. There you go.
Fred Doc Ingold, AD teacher coach, 1950 to 1988, basketball, baseball, the conscious of Butler athletics, and that's so true.